Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America is talking about. The breaking news out of the Department of Justice. Alina Habba, the MAGA lawyer who Donald Trump made U.S. attorney in New Jersey, has just charged Democratic Congresswoman LaMonica McIver in that ICE protest in Newark. Now, you might remember McIver and two other members of Congress went to an ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey to conduct oversight when chaos erupted. McIver, the other lawmakers, and the agents are there in the center of the chaos. And then look at the second video that was released by DHS. McIver can be seen pushing in the crowd as she tries to get to the mayor. Habba is accusing McIver of assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. But they dropped the charges against Mayor Baraka. Now, McIver tonight calls the charges purely political, and they come after these red lines from liberal leaders.
You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do, though? What recourse? But doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I know we have the speech...
It's a red line. It's very clear.
Joining us now in our fifth seat at the table is Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. Mayor, you were there. You were at the center of this. And tell us, when you see that she's now been charged with these allegations, is that what you experienced? Is that what you witnessed?
Well, I think the Congress people went there to do their job, to have oversight. I think, ultimately this is not about even what happened there. It's about a fight in this country, about due process in the Constitution of the United States. I think there's some people who believe they could do what they want to do and violate people's rights and their due process, and there are people who are trying to provide oversight, and it's causing conflict in this. I didn't see any of the things that were stated. I didn't see any of those things happen. So I think that the Congresswoman will be vindicated. And the videos are clear. Everybody can see those videos. They'll see the whole thing, and it'll be clear to me, and it'll be clear to her in court.
The videos are pretty clear, are they not? She's shoving, elbows, some punches. This is violent activity against law enforcement, isn't it?
It's a lot of pushing and shoving. I don't know if...
Would a regular person, if they came and did that to a federal officer, get away with it?
Regular person?
Like a regular, just a non-politician?
They might get pardoned.
If they showed up at a federal facility.
They might get pardoned by this
president. But were they charged? Were they charged? Were they convicted in court? Would a regular person get away with it?
You brought up what she was doing or not doing. On Saturday, my colleague Victor Blackwell had the DHS spokesperson on the show. The claim was that the Congresswoman body slammed an officer, and he challenged her on it. Listen.
You claim that Congresswoman LaMonica McIver body slammed someone. That was your term, not a term I introduced. I don't see that in this video.
Victor,
so how do you...
Victor, body slammed, body rammed, punch, shoved, push, whatever you want to call it. If you all want to whitewash it, look at that right there. If you want to... Viewers should watch for themselves that that's fitting for a sitting member of Congress to be assaulting ICE officers.
So the Congresswoman, after this incident happened, she actually said that she was being pushed and shoved. She said, there was one ICE officer when I was entering back into the gate to the facility where he was literally using his elbows, shoulders, everything pushing against me not to let me in. It may be one of those cases where there is a lot of pushing and shoving happening in both directions. Is that you were there actually as well, right?
I was.
For part of that
I was there
after
the mayor was arrested.
Is that enough to
and let me just
justify charges
and let me just say
this
this, because the construct of this is very interesting. These kinds of charging cases are not made by Alina Habba or any United States attorney in the District of New Jersey. If you're indicting an elected official, especially a federal official, it is made in Maine justice, always. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General of the United States. It is ultimately her decision. Pam Bondi was the lobbyist for the GEO Group, which owns Delaney Hall, which has a $1.2 billion with a B contract at Delaney Hall, and of course
that's the ICE facility,
and of course probably does not want her former client being impeded from having members of Congress performing their oversight responsibilities. So this thing is rotten from start to finish. This attorney general should never have been involved in charging anybody for a former client that benefits a former client. And they should have allowed.
How does it benefit the client?
How does it benefit the client?
How does it benefit?
Because Mayor Baraka does not give them a certificate of occupancy. And if these members of Congress.
What does that have to do with a clear video of someone assaulting a police officer?
Scott? Was that clear? Was it?
Pretty clear.
No, there's nothing clear about it.
It's not a cheap fake, I can assure you of that.
Let me tell you something. If you took off your MAGA goggle glasses and looked at it.
It's a real video.
It's not the whole video either.
It's not the whole video either.
With all due respect, you look like that meme of Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with all the strings and wires trying to connect the dots. You had a member of Congress who, by the way, doesn't have an inherent right just to walk into a federal... Oh, no, you don't. In fact, in January 2021, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz tried the same stunt. It was a stunt. No offense to you, Mayor Baraka. It was a stunt. They don't have an inherent right to walk in and demand the front door be open. They tried the same stunt to visit January 6 prisoners. They were turned away because they were not welcome. The point is, this was a stunt.
Hold on a second. This is an important distinction. It is actually different. The law.
I had the same privilege here in New York.
Hold on a second.
You don't get to just push the
No. We're talking about federal law here. The law explicitly states that Congress people are able to enter ICE facilities at any time. At any time. That's different from a federal prison. It's different from another detention facility. ICE facilities in particular. That is what the law says.
You don't get to just walk in and demand to see people and push and shove. You just admitted there was pushing and shoving. You don't get to go through the barricade of a federal facility and push and shove members of law enforcement. I saw it. Mr. Mayor, what happened if
the mayor in for one more second? Dr. West, you can get
the reality is they were going to have oversight. They were there for over an hour. That's the reality. The point is, it turned into something it shouldn't have turned into. That people, elected officials, are being targeted in this country. And unfortunately, the people there were being targeted. And that shouldn't have happened, right? Over a fight over the Constitution. This was it's not about criminals. It's not about immigrants. It's about due process.
Why do you think she dropped the charges against you?
Well, I think that was the right thing to do, for them to drop the charges. Obviously, we agreed to move forward, but ultimately I didn't do anything wrong. There was no charges that should be brought against me in the first place.
Dr. West?
And I think that's the crucial point. But I just want to begin. 100 years ago, Malcolm X was born in Omaha, Nebraska today. And he's one of the greatest prophetic voices ever produced in this country, no matter whether you agree with him or not. And what was his claim? His claim was, it's so difficult for black people and other oppressed people to be treated fairly and decently in a consistent way. So we have to have the facts and see what they are. We have to have the evidence and see what we are. But we're talking about long patterns here. So when we look at what's happening with Brother Trump in the White House and we see certain policies very targeted on this group, but not on this group. He's not the first to do that. America's got a long history of that. We've had breakthroughs, we've had backlashes. And when this brother here no longer has the charges, it's based on evidence and what is right.
It also strikes me that the Trump administration likes to get these kinds of headlines in the moment. And it will be interesting to see whether they actually are able to prosecute this case, because charging a member of Congress, there's a reason it's usually done in Main Justice, because that's a pretty high bar. I also want to read the statement from Democratic leadership on Representative McIver. I'll skip to the second part, which is the most salient one. Everyone responsible for this illegitimate abuse of power is going to be held accountable for their actions. One of us is an attack on the American people. House Democrats will vigorously in the days to come at a time, place, and manner of our choosing.
And what kind of a threat is that? I mean, what are they going to do? I don't know what that means. He keeps saying it's a red line. We're going to do. I don't even know what they can do here because of the video.
They're not going to run into the Capitol.
The problem is they have a video of it. They have a video of it, and it doesn't look great. And if the argument is, oh, we're here to conduct legitimate oversight, is that what oversight looks like? Pushing and shoving and elbowing and causing a riot at a federal facility? Is that what oversight looks like?
I think what you're saying is incorrect, and I think the video will play itself out. We see the entire video. When the case comes and people look at the video, they'll see what happened. Right now, people are speaking about a small segment of the video that they've seen that are being played over and over and over again on repeat. When you see the entire thing, when it plays itself out, people will be able to have a right decision to make about what happened.
One thing to note as well, and the Congresswoman points this out, after all of that transpired, ICE officials gave Congresswoman McIver and the other two lawmakers a 1-hour tour of the facility. So to then go from that to pressing charges seems hard to sustain.
It was pretty reasonable for them to do that after the way they acted, was it not?
It certainly does seem very reasonable.
Can I ask the mayor a question, actually? Were you invited, I think, did the U.S. attorney also, when they dropped the charges, you were invited to come and tour the facility, right?
She did put that in the...
Are you going to do it?
Of course.
Good.
Of course.
So here's the point. You've got a tour for the members. He's been offered a tour. There's all sorts of accommodations being made here to people who didn't act right in the moment.
Well,
I'm just saying,
there's only one party here
action.
pressing charges, and it's the federal government. We got to leave it here for that conversation. We have much more ahead. Don't worry. Coming up next, Mayor Baraka, thank you, by the way, very much for joining us on that. Everyone else, stay with us. Next, as the DOJ charges this Congresswoman, the Trump administration is paying $5 million to the family of Ashley Babbitt, a January 6th rioter. Former Capitol officer Harry Dunn is going to join us in our fifth seat. Plus, Joe Biden's diagnosis sparks the president to suggest a cover-up of his health. That's ahead.